I threw that one away. I messed up. We didn't play great as a team. We needed to win that game. This game was ours.
Stop everything right now. What just happened in Game 2 of the NBA Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks was one of the most shocking, painful moments we've seen in finals history in a long time. And you need to stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to break down goes way deeper than just a loss. This is about legacy. This is about pressure. This is about whether Victor Wembanyama is ready for this moment, or if this moment is just too big for him. Here's why you're staying. The Spurs were down bad, like change the channel, go to bed, close the app kind of down. And then, the part that had NBA Twitter going completely crazy, San Antonio fought back. They clawed their way back into the game. The crowd in New York got nervous. The Knicks bench got tight. The whole momentum flipped. And then, Victor Wembanyama, the 7'4" generational talent, the guy people compare to aliens and video game characters, had a chance to define his entire postseason. And he choked. I don't say that lightly. We're talking missed shots he has no business missing. Passes that hit his own teammate in the back. Basketball so clumsy it looked like a pickup game, not the NBA Finals. And after the game, the Spurs head coach couldn't hide how he felt. The frustration was palpable. His body language said everything his words tried not to. The Spurs coach went off on Wemby, and the whole basketball world felt it. We are breaking all of it down today. This is the video you sent to your group chat before it's even over. But before we get into Game 2, I need to set the stage, because context is everything. There are 7 levels of NBA superstar performance on the biggest stage. I've used this framework for years, and it holds true across every era, from the Showtime Lakers to the Bad Boy Pistons to the Jordan Bulls to today. Level 1 is where players disappear completely. Level 7 is where basketball immortality lives. Level 7 is Jordan in '98. Level 7 is LeBron in 2016. Level 7 is where legends are made. Right now, and I say this with full respect for the talent involved, Victor Wembanyama is firmly sitting at a level 2, flirting dangerously with level 1. And that is a conversation we need to have honestly. When Wemby was drafted first overall in 2023, people said things about this kid I had never heard said about any prospect in my lifetime of watching basketball. Scouts called him unprecedented. Teams tanked just to try and get him. Before he played a single NBA game, he was already being talked about with the all-time greats, and the regular season backed it up. His numbers were exceptional. His defense is unlike anything this league has ever seen. He blocks shots from impossible angles. He handles like a guard. He shoots threes at a percentage that smaller wings would be proud of. San Antonio built a real playoff team around him faster than almost any rebuild in recent memory. But here's the hard truth. Regular season excellence and playoff excellence are two completely different things, and playoff Wemby in Game 2 against the Knicks looked like a totally different player from the one who dragged San Antonio to the finals. Now let's talk about what actually happened, because Karl-Anthony Towns put on a show that deserves its own conversation before we even get to Wemby's struggles. KAT was absolutely dominant, and I know some of you will push back because a chunk of the basketball world still doesn't fully respect him as an elite player. They point to his Minnesota years, they point to the playoff disappointments, they point to the narrative that he's soft. And look, I get it, that reputation followed him for years, but what KAT did in Game 2 rewrote the narrative. This was not the KAT who disappeared in big moments in Minnesota. This was not the KAT who faded in the post. This was a fully unleashed Karl-Anthony Towns playing with the kind of confidence you only get when you've been doubted your whole career and finally have the platform to silence everyone at once. The matchup everyone circled was KAT versus Wemby, new generation versus established star. The 7'4" French phenom against the big man who spent years reinventing himself into a two-way force. On paper, it was supposed to be a fascinating chess match. In practice, KAT ate Wemby's lunch, took his lunchbox, and came back for dinner. Towns was scoring from everywhere. Mid-range jumpers over Wemby's outstretched arm, which should be almost impossible given Wemby's wingspan. Post moves that made Spurs fans sweat throughout the whole game. On pick-and-roll actions, Wemby's coverages were slow and hesitant in a way you rarely saw him all regular season. And KAT wasn't just scoring, he was talking. He was setting physical screens that moved Wemby off his spot. His energy in the first half was contagious for the whole Knicks team. Every basket, every tough shot forced on Wemby, the MGC crowd went absolutely berserk. The Knicks built a lead that felt unbeatable, and whenever San Antonio tried to make a run, KAT answered. He had a feel for the exact moment to apply the brakes. That is the most underrated skill in basketball. By halftime, the Spurs were staring at a deficit that looked like a knockout blow. The national media was already writing the sweepstakes. Twitter was flooded with Wemby criticism. And then the second half happened. Credit to the Spurs, because a lot of young teams would have folded under that deficit in an arena like Madison Square Garden during the NBA Finals. That place gets loud. That crowd gets in your head. The history of that building creates a pressure cooker that chews up teams that aren't ready for it. The Spurs didn't fold. They came out of halftime with a different energy. Ball movement was crisper, defensive rotations were tighter, the easy transition buckets the Knicks were feasting on dried up completely. Whoever made those halftime adjustments deserves a lot of credit. And Wemby started the second half looking like a different player. Better post defense on Cat, more aggressive at the rim. He hit some shots that reminded you exactly why this kid is supposed to be special. The bench stepped up too. Role players who were invisible in the first half suddenly found their shooting touch. San Antonio was hitting corner threes and making the Knicks pay. The MSG crowd got nervous. You could hear it. Point by point, the Spurs chipped away. And when they got close enough that the whole momentum of the series felt like it was about to shift, that's when it happened. That's when the basketball gods reminded everyone what pressure does to young players. That's when Wemby choked. And I want to be careful here. This kid is 20 years old, playing in his first NBA Finals. The pressure he's under is unlike anything most of us will ever face in our lives. So when I say he made mistakes, some absolutely mind-boggling mistakes, I'm saying it with context, not cruelty. But context doesn't change what happened. Let's start with the pass. You saw it. Even if you missed the game live, you've definitely seen the clip because it went viral within minutes. The Spurs had the ball in a half-court set. Shot clock winding down, Wemby decided to hit a teammate cutting through the lane. The read was actually decent, but the ball hit his own teammate square in the back. In the back! His teammate had no idea it was coming. In pickup basketball, you laugh it off, but in the fourth quarter of a finals game with momentum hanging in the balance, that turnover was crushing. The Knicks scored going the other way. MSG erupted, and Wemby's shoulders dropped in a way that told you everything about his mental state in that moment. But it wasn't just that one play. That's what I need you to understand. The pass off the back was the most visible moment, but it was part of a whole series of clumsy, uncharacteristic mistakes in those critical closing minutes. Dribbles off his own foot, a missed defensive miscommunication on the pick and roll, where he went completely the wrong direction, leaving a Knicks shooter wide open in the corner. They made it, of course. A missed free throw when the Spurs couldn't afford to leave points at the line. And then the one that will live in highlight reels forever. The Spurs had a real chance. They were within striking distance, time still on the clock. Wemby caught the ball in his sweet spot. The exact look he's made hundreds of times. The exact shot scouts fell in love with. A good shot, not desperate, not rushed. He missed it. Game over. The Knicks took a 2-0 series lead, and the post-game fallout was immediate and brutal. After the game, the Spurs head coach, who had been measured and patient and supportive of Wemby all postseason, clearly hit a breaking point he couldn't fully hide. Even in a managed post-game press conference, the body language gave it away before a single word. Tight jaw, eyes too controlled. A man working very hard to say things diplomatically. And then he stopped being fully diplomatic. Look, the coach didn't scream or call Wemby out by name. That's not how it worked. But the message was crystal clear. He talked about execution. He talked about finishing plays. He talked about the level of focus these moments require being different from anything else they faced this year. He talked about how the team put themselves in position to win and failed to finish. Then a reporter asked directly about Wemby's fourth quarter performance, and the coach paused. That pause said everything. He chose his words carefully, but those words included phrases about needing their best players to be their best when it matters most, and about moments like this requiring a different level of composure than Victor has had to find before. That is coach speak for Wemby choked, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. The basketball media grabbed that and ran. Analysts were on every platform within the hour. Former players were sounding off on social media. And the question everyone had been dancing around, is Wemby truly built for this, suddenly became the loudest conversation in the sport. And honestly, I think the coach was right to say it. Not because I enjoy watching a young player get criticized on the biggest stage, but because the best thing you can do for a generational talent heading into a season-defining Game 3 is tell them the truth. You don't coddle players into greatness. You don't shelter them from accountability and then expect them to find it when you need it most. Jordan's coaches held him accountable. LeBron had coaches who pushed back when he needed it. Kobe had combustible coaching relationships specifically because accountability ran both ways. The greats didn't become great because everyone protected their feelings. They became great because the people around them demanded excellence and refused to accept less. That's what this coach was doing. Whether Wemby is mature enough to respond to it is what Game 3 will answer. Now, here's something we need to acknowledge, because it's easy to pile on and miss the real character moments in all of this. After Game 2, Wemby stepped in front of the cameras and he didn't hide. He didn't deflect, he didn't point at defensive breakdowns or officiating, or the fact that Cat had a special night nobody saw coming. He stood there and owned it. He called the turnover off his teammates' back unacceptable. He said the missed shot was a shot he had to make. He talked about still learning how to process finals pressure, and he said it without self-pity.
I could have been better in recovering from the high of the conference finals. But I mean, here we are. We can't change the past now. We're already focused on Game 3.
He said straight, factual, like a player who looked honestly at what happened and accepted it completely. And that matters a lot, because we've seen plenty of young stars retreat into deflection after their worst moments on the biggest stage. We've seen stars hide behind carefully crafted statements that technically acknowledge failure without ever really owning it. Wemby's press conference was not that. It was a 20-year-old staring into cameras with the whole basketball world watching and saying, "I let my team down. That's on me." That's the first thing you need to be a champion, not talent. Talent is table stakes at this level. What separates the level 6 and 7 players from everyone else is the ability to look at failure honestly, own it completely, and use it as fuel instead of a wound. Wemby showed character in that moment. Now he has to show basketball. And now the biggest question hanging over this series heading into Game 3. Can San Antonio respond, or is a sweep coming? Both sides deserve an honest look. The case for the Spurs starts with the fact that they already proved they can compete in this series. Game 1 was close. They clawed all the way back in Game 2 before the late mistakes. This team hasn't been outclassed in scheme or preparation. They've been outplayed in closing moments. That's a different problem, and a more fixable one. The coaching staff will adjust. Whatever sparked that second half comeback, they'll draw on it again. And Cat simply cannot have a Game 2 every single night. The Spurs will adjust their coverages on pick and rolls, how they help in the post, and how they force them into tougher looks. But here's the heavy case against the Spurs. Being down 0-2 in the NBA Finals is historically one of the hardest holes to climb out of. The numbers are brutal. Teams down 0-2 in the Finals win the series a very small percentage of the time. And most of those comebacks happen when teams have multiple Hall of Fame talents who can carry their franchise through adversity. The Spurs are built around Wemby, and right now, Finals Wemby is still being broken in by the pressure. The Knicks have momentum. They have a roster full of players who've been in high-pressure moments and come through. Thibodeau's teams are relentless. They don't let you breathe. And when a team shows vulnerability the way the Spurs did in those closing minutes, Tibbs and the Knicks will attack it again and again in Game 3. And I can't ignore the psychological weight Wemby is carrying into that game. The viral moments, the coach's public comments, the accountability press conference, all of it swirling around a 20-year-old who is still learning how to be the face of an NBA franchise, let alone a finals team.
Some players shrink under that weight. The special ones use it as rocket fuel. We just don't know yet which kind of player Wemby is, because he's never been tested at this level before. Here's what I believe. I believe the Spurs will be more competitive in Game 3 than the series record suggests. I believe the coaching staff will make real adjustments to slow KAT down in the spots where he hurt them most. I believe Wemby's accountability was genuine and will show up in a more composed performance. But I also believe the Knicks are the better team right now. Their experience and depth gives them the edge when it matters most. And unless Wemby shows up in the fourth quarter as a level 5 player or above, making shots, making the right reads, executing under pressure, the Spurs are going to be staring at an 0-3 hole. A sweep is on the table. I said it. I know that upsets Spurs fans, and I understand. But a sweep doesn't mean this team is bad. It doesn't mean Wemby's future is in doubt. Getting to the finals at all with this young core is something real to build on. But championships aren't built on moral victories, and if the Spurs get swept, the whole offseason will come down to one question. Is Victor Wembanyama the reason your team wins a championship or the reason your team loses? That's the conversation Game 3 is going to set the foundation for, and I genuinely cannot wait to watch it unfold. Let me bring this home. I told you at the start we were going deeper than just the loss. Here's where we land. There are 7 levels of NBA Finals performance, and the all-time greats, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, none of them got to level 7 without going through something like what Wemby is going through right now. Jordan had the bad boy Pistons. Kobe had moments early on where the stage felt too big. LeBron had the finals failure in 2011. Greatness is not born fully formed. It gets built in exactly these kinds of moments, when everything falls apart, when the world is watching, when the coach goes public with his frustration, when you walk up to a microphone and own your failure in front of everyone. Victor Wembanyama is being forged right now. Whether the steel holds or cracks under this heat is what Game 3 starts to tell us. Here's what I know for certain. The game changes, players come and go, rosters shift, but greatness is greatness and failure is failure, and you cannot reach one without facing the other. Wemby has the talent to be an all-time player. The framework of NBA greatness has held across every era, and that framework says the players who reach level 7 are the ones who take moments like Game 2, the choked shots, the pass off a teammate's back, the coach going off on camera, and they turn them into motivation that never fades. The question is not whether Wemby is talented enough to lead a championship team. We already know the answer is yes. The question is whether he's ready, whether this moment is his or whether he still belongs to the moment. Game 3 won't answer that completely, but it's going to tell us a whole lot. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the breakdown, because however Game 3 goes, we will be right here breaking it all down. Drop in the comments right now. Can the Spurs avoid the sweep? Does Wemby bounce back? Or do the Knicks close it out in 4? Let me know, because I read every single comment. This has been your breakdown of one of the most dramatic nights of the NBA Finals, and trust me, we are just getting started.